On October 2nd, 2023, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association brought the hammer down on the New Bern High School football team, forcing them to forfeit all wins from the 2022 season, including the state championship title, due to ineligible players on the field. They must also return over $38,000 made in revenue to the Athletic Association by March 31st of next year. This all started back in May when former NBH principal Jerry Simmons and guidance counselor Heidi Ricks were suspended with pay. Simmons was set to retire on July 1st. 1 week after the suspensions, calls were made to multiple seniors at the school, informing the students they would not be graduating at the end of the week on June 9th. Rumors about grades being changed by Simmons circulated online, but our questions remained unanswered. Now flash forward to the fall, to the day after Craven County Schools announced the game forfeiture. I spoke with District Superintendent Dr. Wendy Miller about the exact policies that were violated. Superintendent Dr. Wendy Miller says last spring she received allegations of student athletes' grades, quote, not matching the effort of the students. Craven County Schools sent out a new press release Tuesday evening that included the NCHSAA's final decision, which confirmed those allegations. In the violation letter, the organization quotes Dr. Miller's investigations, saying, quote, student athletes on the New Bern High School football team during the fall 2022 season received passing grades on their transcripts for multiple courses in the spring semester of 2022 that differed from the grades assigned by their teachers. The findings continue on to say that had the teachers' grades remained on the student transcripts, these students would have been ineligible for the 2022 season.
We found lots of things, including absences and things that then we did not go looking at this as a sports issue, but as a student issue.
The policy that was violated was policy 3620 through the school system and the academic requirements per the NCHSAA's handbook. To be eligible for athletics, students must pass their required courses, such as English, and attend 85% of the semester's school days. In the spring of 2022, athletes could miss around 13 to 14 days of school and still be eligible. But these aren't the only two policies in play. Should a student miss more than 10 days of a class, then the class becomes a forced fail and the student wouldn't get credit. In some cases, that attendance issue could lead to an academic issue, making the student ineligible.
So there's two different standards, the academic course passing standard and the attendance standard. Both are required. They're not and or, they're both and.
To prevent this from happening again, Dr. Miller is planning randomized eligibility checks and is working to hire a district-wide athletic director to help with accountability.
The majority of the students did it right, and I hate this for them. But when we were part of a team, we win together and we lose together.
Now, the controversy surrounding the football team continued, however, when on October 11th, Craven County Schools announced the current season's team must forfeit 5 games due to having 4 ineligible players still dressing to play. According to a press release sent out Wednesday afternoon, New Bern's athletic director reached out to the NCHSAA in September, making them aware of ineligible players participating in fall sports. After conducting an audit, 4 players on the football team were deemed ineligible based on their attendance records and 1 tennis player. The release states that, quote, the 2023 football program must forfeit all contests in which the ineligible student athletes dressed to participate. The student athletes participated in 5 football games, so New Bern High School must forfeit these victories at the beginning of the season. An additional audit also found 1 soccer player on West Craven High School's men's soccer team ineligible. Throughout this, we requested interviews and asked questions of Craven County Schools Central Office, and we were referred to the district's Public Relations Department. Our questions centered on whether principals were allowed to change grades, and if they were, how does that make players ineligible? Some of those questions were answered, though, when former principal Jerry Simmons decided to break his silence on the issue. He released a statement confirming he changed student grades and a letter sent to him by CCS informing Simmons of their investigation investigations into his conduct. I sat down with him on October 17th for a 49-minute interview where he got to tell his side of the story. You know, I saw a couple of things in the letter that was sent to you where it was, say, a 49 changed to a 60-something changed to a 72, or a 50 that ended up being an 80. So how do you justify those big jumps in grades?
We had some students where, again, the teachers worked with us on giving them review packets, makeup packets of work, and that students performing. So truthfully, I can just tell you that could account for what looks like a huge jump, but what really could have been incremental jumps that happened during a certain window of time. I just don't know.
So there was never an instance where the student's grade was changed and they didn't have to work for it?
Right, yes.
So one of the questions that we've been getting a lot in a lot of the commentary surrounding this, at least online, is letting kids fail, knowing that they need to do the work at the right time to succeed. So there's been some backlash on the decision to change grades, because what kind of a precedent does that set for students if knowing, like, on the back end it could be changed?
So again, any situation where I was involved with it, there was also a conversation with that student, and there was a plan in place for that student. So I don't see that those comments have any merit to those. And to be quite frank with you, I didn't go into education to watch a student reaching out to a hot stove, and well, when they burn themselves, they'll know not to touch a hot stove again. That's not my why. That was never my purpose as an educator. So no, I'm not going to watch a kid fail if I believe there are other opportunities to help that student find success, but still earn it.
After my interview with Simmons, the question remained of did he or did he not break the law? There's a widely held belief that principals can change student grades as they see fit, and if that were the case, there wouldn't be forfeited games and vacated state titles. We went to the source to find out more. The statute in question is GS 115C-288, specifically the first paragraph, the language grade and classify pupils. There have been multiple interpretations of this specific section, which seems to be causing the confusion as to whether or not former New Bern principal Jerry Simmons was allowed to change grades in the first place. I asked Craven County Superintendent about her interpretation Monday.
It said the principal has authority to grade and classify, and in that paragraph it says to grade and classify they can consider end of grade scores, classroom grades. So it's clear that grade and classify does not mean classroom grades, it means placing a student in the proper grade.
In our interview with Simmons on Tuesday, he says countless administrators use the statute to justify grade changes. How do you read that statute?
That shouldn't be baseless. The key point in there where you should consider the best interest of the pupil, of that individual student. In the high schools, of course, we have grade levels, but it's more so about individual courses.
I reached out to one of Craven County's representatives in the state legislature who sent the statute to the Legislative Analysis Division of the General Assembly to get an opinion on how the statute is meant to be interpreted. He passed on their response to us. According to their interpretation, the language in the statute deals with assigning grade levels rather than numerical or letter grades, and it doesn't address who has the authority to assign them. According to the division, that would be up to individual boards. I reached out to Simmons again with that interpretation, and he says it was, quote, interesting to hear this, pointing out that passing individual classes and earning credits is how students move forward. Now, knowing the official opinion from the General Assembly, we reached back out to the CCS board ahead of their October 19th meeting to find out if they had a written policy regarding who has the authority to change student grades. When I requested an interview with Board Chair Brent Manning, I was denied, the reason being they, quote, wanted to move forward. During the meeting, public comment primarily focused on the issues surrounding the high school, and I got the chance to speak with a parent involved.
We've had blame put on parents, we've had blame put on students, we've had blame put on coaches, athletic directors, principals, but you haven't heard any blame on central office. You haven't heard any blame put on board members. Talking and being accessible goes a long way. We're not saying things are going to change overnight, but we do expect them to change over time, and that can only happen if you are transparent and you are accessible. That's all we're asking. Be accessible to us, the parents and the students, because we are who got you in these positions.
District administration will be looking for a district-wide athletic director to address checking athlete eligibility issues, but questions remain about who has authority to change student grades. This question goes well beyond Craven County schools and needs to be asked throughout the state if the statute outlining the powers of a principal has been misinterpreted. In the coming weeks, I'll be reaching out to school districts across Eastern Carolina, as well as former educators, to get that question answered. We'll keep you updated both on air and online at WCTI12.com as we find out more.